How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling. We've got Brian Alvarez, Figure 4 Weekly here, and we also are scheduled to have John Cena Prototype from Ohio Valley Wrestling later on in the show. So we'll be talking about him and his transition from California to Ohio in his quest to get to the WWF, which will come, or WCW now. So anyway, Brian, how was last night?
Ohio or Kentucky?
Ohio Valley. I'm sorry. Ohio Valley. He's in Louisville, Kentucky, but the company's called Ohio Valley Wrestling.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Let's hope James in Kentucky doesn't get a hold of him, though.
Okay. Brian, how was your night last
I think
night?
we should make that exception just today because he's in Kentucky.
Yeah.
No, let's not. I'm doing good. What's going on?
Not too much. How'd the issue turn out?
Turned out pretty good. I was done earlier than I expected, but today things happened and I didn't have time to get the preview up. So that'll be up later on, but if you're interested in the Observer preview, it's already up on the website.
Yeah, I was real happy with the issue. I was done like the earliest I've been done like in my whole life. Except so it's a West Coast SmackDown, so I'm sitting waiting all night for a report. And
of course
actually,
you didn't get it.
I didn't really. I mean, I got a sketchy report. I actually didn't get a full report until the morning. So, as it turned out. But not a lot of news. I mean, a lot of stuff on the relaunch of WCW and Nick Foley stuff. So I think it's a good issue. I'm real happy with it. I'm already pretty far in next week's issue too. So I don't know. Anyway, let's see. I think the first one we should probably talk about is SmackDown from last night. So let me get my notes from the show. It was from the Pond in Anaheim. They did not sell out. And let's see. Sylvester Terkay beat Steve Bradley, which I heard was not good. Nova and Frankie Kazarian beat Christopher Daniels and Mikey Henderson, which I heard was a good match. Those were the dark matches. Then for Heat, let's see. X Factor beat Justin Credible and Albert. Taka beat Crash Holly. Tess beat Val Venus. They got to do something with Val Venus.
X Factor beat Credible and Albert?
Albert and Credible beat APA. APA beat Credible and Albert. I'm sorry. Yeah, you got it. Okay. Yeah, they got to do something with Val Venus. We talk about guys getting lost in the shuffle. I mean, that guy's really lost in the shuffle. Yeah. He needs a gimmick transplant. Big Show beat Billy Gunn to keep the hardcore title. And then
Billy
S.A.
Gunn
Rios.
got a huge ovation, but he did the job.
Yes. And Jerry Lynn beat S.A. Rios to keep the light heavyweight title, which I heard was a pretty good match. And then for SmackDown, they did a lot more wrestling on the show. Actually, from most of the live reports that we ended up getting, most of them were very positive towards this show. Some said it was a better show than Monday. And even if it's only as good as Monday, that's still like an A show, so that's good. And people were raving about the tables, ladders, and chairs match. I know that
saying, better than the match on Monday. I had people saying, best TLC match they ever saw. So, sounds like a hell of a match.
Well, I mean, they had a story, which was Benoit went through the table, got carried on a stretcher, and then came back to win. So, the idea of the show was to make Benoit a superstar. I don't know if you can do it in one show, but whatever you can do in one show, apparently they did very well.
The thing that I liked about it was I heard that, because, you see Benoit, and he's never hurt. You really can't injure the guy, and the only time that they've ever really done an injury angle was the knee brace they had on him, and even that just didn't look right to see him with like a knee brace on. This was like a year ago. So when he went to the table here, I mean, they had the paramedics coming down, they had the referee calling him down to the ring, Taz getting out of the booth, everything, and trying to make it look like it was legit, and hopefully it worked.
Yeah, and I'm sure it was really good. The one thing, and this is the problem with having so much television, and even doing the tables, ladders, and chairs, is that when they do something, I mean, they go all the way, especially because this is a lot of Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman won a lot of brownie points because of how successful Monday turned out. So he's got a lot of power right now with Vince McMahon and a lot of credibility with him. The one thing with Paul Heyman is that he goes full bore on his angles all the way. But the problem with that is that when he does that many times, they burn out. I mean, it's kind of like ECW television in the last year. I mean, it's really, and it's just like, okay, we've got to panic. Our main event for SmackDown, we talked about this yesterday, the main event for SmackDown isn't here. Let's do a tables, ladders, and chairs match. And it's like, okay, but that's like, it's, I don't want to compare it to Russo because he's far more disciplined than Russo, and also he knows wrestling, and he knows he just knows far more than Russo. but there's still that thing of when you put your foot to the pedal to the metal, on every angle, you got to take it off on some angles. I mean, it was probably really good for this one, but then I just don't want to see, like, all the paramedics and all of them, and Taz getting out of the chair on every angle, because then all of a sudden it'll never mean anything again.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
I think it's important on this one, though, because, they're doing the period right now where they need to get these guys over. They did everything they could on Monday. They're going to do everything they could tonight. And I think that it'll get to the point where whether or not they actually turn these guys into superstars, they'll at least make them credible in the eyes of the fans. At that point, you can back away.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just saying, like, you just can't be doing this week after week.
Yeah.
But anyway,
in
they
fact,
had...
funny you should mention that. I was looking through a tape last night, and I happened to find the tape where it was Ric Flair and Vince Russo in the cage.
And oh, my God.
I don't know if you remember that entire show, but they could have done probably 6 months' worth of angles that they just happened to cram into one show. And it was completely unbelievable, because I didn't watch the whole thing because I'd have killed myself, but I fast-forwarded through all of it. And it was like angle after angle after angle, and it was like by the end of the show, because the only thing we remember from that show is that cage match, because it was like a miracle. But yeah. I swear to you, there were like 25 different angles on this one show, and it was so numbing. Just way too much stuff.
And none of them got over.
No, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key. The key is not quantity. The key is productivity. Like you turn an angle, the idea of an angle is not to fill airtime. The idea of an angle is to do something that in some form builds a character or builds business or does something productive for the company, not to, oh my God, we've got like 2 extra minutes here, let's do an angle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, as far as the show goes, X-Pac beat Eddie Guerrero, which I heard was a good match, and I'm shocked at that finish, because it was a clean finish.
I'm not.
Well, tell me why.
Come on, think about X-Pac. If it were anybody else, I'd be shocked, but somehow X-Pac always squeaks that clean win by.
Yeah, I'm just talking logic for just a lot of reasons. Isn't Eddie Guerrero?
It doesn't make any sense at all, because when I was watching Monday, I was just thinking, I'll bet they're moving towards the swerve and they're just going to turn Eddie Guerrero, but this guy's getting so over as a babyface that each day that goes by, I just go, just go with it, please. This guy's over.
Okay, but when you got a babyface who's on with upward momentum, you try not to beat him, especially with X-Pac. You know what I mean? It's like if he had to lose to, say, Kurt Angle or somebody to get ready somebody for, like Chris Benoit, you know what I mean? Then I can understand, okay, there's a purpose here. But, I'm looking at who wins and loses in the purpose. And it's like,
there
okay.
Is no purpose.
Yeah, so maybe like next Monday, Eddie Guerrero will beat X-Pac in a rematch, and so nobody goes anywhere. But it's like, X-Pac is going nowhere. He's a tag team guy. Eddie Guerrero seems to have some momentum, so why lose? Tajiri showed up.
First time in this show, by the way.
No, it's not, which we'll get to later. I don't know. That just reminds me of WCW for some reason. Everything does. Let's see. Tajiri showed up speaking Japanese, and Steve Regal, or William Regal, started giving him pointers on working in the WWF. The people did not know who he was at all, so anyway.
And Regal informed him that they did not want any stereotypical characters in the company.
Yes. Backstage, the Dudleys were arguing about Molly Holly. Spike goes to find Molly, and Kurt Angle finds Molly first and tries to order her around, which gets Spike mad, which sets up Kurt Angle and Spike Dudley. The purpose of this is so Kurt Angle could do an Olympic slam off the ring steps down to the floor and kill Spike Dudley. And he ended up beating him with an ankle lock later in the match. Molly tries to run in for the save, but Crash and Hardcore will not let her run in, and then Angle keeps the ankle lock on Spike even longer. Then we got Dean Malenko and Raven, which Dean Malenko wins when Saturn interferes, but Raven makes a comeback. Saturn accidentally kicks a chair into Malenko's face when Raven moves, and then Saturn gets a DDT on a chair by Raven. Okay, it says crowd was dead for this match, but until Raven did his comeback. Let me see. Then Steve Austin cuts a really good promo. He rips on Jericho. He rips on Undertaker. And he rips on Triple H, blaming Triple H for him losing the title, which means that when they're already building up the turn, which isn't necessarily a bad idea because 5 months from now or 4 months from now when Triple H is... You know what I'm scared of now that I think about this? If Triple H is going to come back as a babyface, which it sounds like, and if 4 or 5 months from now that probably is a good idea, they really should keep him off TV completely until he's like ready to wrestle.
Yeah.
Because if he's on TV week after week, like in 4 weeks they start putting him on TV and he can't wrestle, it'll really undermine the pop for his comeback. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because by the time he makes a comeback, people will have seen him so much that there will be no newness to it.
Yeah.
So, he's sitting there.
Just look at, I'm trying to remember who. I think it was Shawn Michaels. He was world's biggest heel, wrestling Steve Austin, and at WrestleMania, got beat, disappeared from TV, and they made no mention of him, and then his first night back, just the giant babyface pop. It'd be the same thing with Hunter.
Oh, yeah. But, if he's on, one of the things I remember when Flair and Sting did their program, this is now, we're going back to 1990, and Sting blew out his knee right before they were about to do the big title switch. Sting blows out his knee, and so they got to go 6 months, which was quite a hectic 6 months because Jim Herd had no discipline and kept wanting to beat Ric Flair for the title so there'd be a babyface finish on a pay-per-view. And Ric Flair kept thinking, well, if we promised it to Sting and I lose before the Sting match, it kills the Sting match. And Jim Herd didn't really get that. So Rick kept refusing to do jobs for Luger, and it was just a mess. But anyway, they finally got to it. But the thing that undermined it in a lot of people's eyes on the booking committee, and Willie and I used to complain about it all the time, was they were so afraid because of TV ratings that if they didn't have Sting on TV, the ratings would go down. Like it really mattered. And in those days, it didn't. So they kept putting Sting on TV week after week, even though it was like months before he could wrestle. And then by the time he came back, with Ric Flair and Sting, and the one thing where we figured out, why it was such a big mess is, Sting coming back after 6 months, if you understand the business in those days, for the big title shot against Ric Flair in Baltimore, which was their number one city, it was a given that that's a sellout, right? And it was a pay-per-view show, too. Great American Match. Given sellout, and they ended up only with 8,000 people in the building. And, the buy rate was not nearly what they expected. And then they were all going why? And it was because Sting didn't make a comeback. He was on TV week after week, before he ever did the match. Mm-hmm. So anyway, and unable to wrestle. Unlike...
You can't come back when you're not gone, in other words.
Right. Now, Sting and Hogan, with Sting not wrestling, but making those cameos on TV, that worked, but that was because Sting was always helped. You know what I mean? They didn't see... It's totally different psychology. But anyway... Yeah. Where was I? Back to this. So anyway, okay, back to Regal's office. Tajiri is serving Regal dinner, and Rhino comes in, demands a hardcore title shot. Regal's upset and says no. Then he wants a world title shot. Says no. Then he asks for an intercontinental title shot, and Regal says yes. So much for Rhino's upward mobility. Grandmaster Sexay Steve Blackman, Trish Stratus beat Goodfather, Bull Buchanan, Ivory. Heard the match was really bad. With the big pop when Trish does the worm. So Scotty 2 Hotty is now an obsolete character. Rhino beat Kane clean with a chokeslam to keep the Intercontinental. And Saturn, after being injured, does more of his saying stupid things. And then Tables, Ladders, and Chairs, which was a 4-way, which we talked about. Benoit, Jericho, Hardy's, Edge and Christian, and Dudley's. And Benoit ends up doing the diving headbutt. Through the table, gets stretchered out. Christian is also injured in there somewhere. Everybody was fine when it was over, though. I think that's a worked injury as well. And then anyway, Benoit's stretchered out. He comes back. He gets a concerto about a minute later, and he's out again. Then anyway, where were we? It ends up with Benoit climbing the ladder and Benoit and Jericho winning, and the show ends with them celebrating. And anyway, I heard that was an awesome match, cannot be missed, so it's a good recommendation for the show. Poll question for right now was, today is the 2-year anniversary of the death of Owen Hart, so our poll question is, what were Owen Hart's best series of matches? A, Owen Hart and Ben Basarab against the Viet Cong Express. B, singles matches with Owen Hart against Hiroshi Hase. C, Owen Hart against Jushin Liger. D, Owen Hart against Bret Hart. E, Owen Hart against Shawn Michaels. And, let's see. Got some of the quarter-hour rating stuff. Nothing much to say other than the Kurt Angle celebration did a 4.9, which was the peak of the show. The main event did a 4.5, which is probably the lowest-rated main event. But no one's really, from what I gather, no one's really saying much about it. In that everyone kind of knew that you're not going to turn the rating around in 1 week. And the bottom line is that Benoit and Jericho going into that match were certainly not over enough. Even with the storytelling, I think it's bad. We were talking about, how the show, at least the second hour, was higher than the first. But if you look at the quarter-hour patterns, they actually were not very They actually weren't good because the show grew for the first hour and 15, and then it lost a lot of audience in the second hour, and that's not good. And didn't pick up much for the main event. So it's not a good pattern, but I wouldn't read too much into it because, let's face it, they're coming off 6 straight bad weeks. You can't reverse it in 1 week.
People like Kurt Angle.
Yeah, although his match with Kane didn't do anything. They liked the ceremony.
Match with Kane.
Yeah, well, just pointing it out. See, the Heat did a 1.26, which is pretty crappy. Livewire did a 1.0, and Superstars did like an 0.8.
Thing with Heat is, I didn't ever watch Heat, and I decided one day, well, I'm going to watch Heat. And I watched it, and I lasted 2 weeks, and all of a sudden I never wanted to watch it again. So it's one of those shows where, you decide you want to watch it, but once you do, there's really nothing there that brings you back and makes you want to watch it again, and I think that's something they need to work on.
Yeah. What do we have here? As far as for the next pay-per-view, I actually started thinking about the King of the Ring pay-per-view, and I've come to a new conclusion from yesterday. Okay, this is much better than yesterday. Since they're going with Austin and Jericho, okay, they got a King of the Ring, and King of the Ring you can get if you do an 8-man King of the Ring as opposed to a 4-man. Okay, they have no hot programs right now, so it's basically going to be a thing where you want to just put on a really good show because you've got by the decision to go with Austin and Jericho, you're going, just by nature of that, you're telling everyone this is a building show. Because if they did Austin versus Undertaker, that would be a stagnant show, but probably do slightly more business, but it would get you nowhere and build nothing for the future. This one, at least theoretically, can build something for the future. So I'm going what are you going to do with King of the Ring? And the feeling is and keep Benoit's upward momentum going, okay, because he's got to get over. And then after this, you can start getting somebody else over. And my feeling is that, do a great King of the Ring, kind of like last year's, right, Brian?
Oh, yeah, great.
That was very sarcastic, by the way. But do a great King of the Ring. You can load it up with workers. They're all there. And you go in there, and then Benoit goes over for King of the Ring. And Benoit can – this is my new theory for King of the Ring. First round, Benoit beats the Big Show in about 4 minutes with a crossface. Okay, so you get that thing – you get that there, but it's short and it's over with. Second round, Benoit gets destroyed by Regal. So, Regal isn't destroyed in Benoit. You know what I mean? Destroyed, laid out, the whole bit. But Benoit somehow still gets a pin. Then Benoit is just totally trashed. Angle is the final guy. Okay? So this way you're not building another Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle match, even though you're going there anyway. You get a good match. Angle's killing him the whole match. Benoit ends up winning because, Angle beat him last time. And that way Benoit gets over, Angle gets to go to the final, so that's kind of a nice thing. Regal's clobbered Benoit even though he's lost, so he gets a little bit... And
Big Show loses in the first round via submission. That's a perfect plan.
And it's over with. So you get that thing that I talked about, but it's over with. Everyone can remember it. But, Benoit doesn't have to have a crappy match. He can have 2 great matches and 1 crappy match on the same night, and people will forget the crappy match because he's had 2 great, because...
And 4 minutes with the Big Show might not be crappy.
Well, okay.
I remember he had a 10-second match with the Big Show that was very good.
Yeah, the one-arm choke slam. That was it.
Here's what I got to say about King of the Ring. It's just a very short speech. There's a lot of very good wrestlers in the WWF, and it would be very easy, whether you use Dave's plan or anybody else's plan, to book a tournament that would be awesome on paper, where a guy would win a good match, another guy would win a good match, and it would set those 2 guys up for another good match, all to lead to the finals. And last year, when we saw the King of the Ring brackets, by God, we had a perfect tournament booked with the brackets that the WWF had provided. A hell of a tournament. And instead, they effed that thing up so badly. I will never forget when I saw Rikishi go to the finals, and I thought, they screwed up Benoit and Guerrero. They screwed up all these great matches. Why? To try and get the big, fat Rikishi over. And I hope they're ashamed of themselves and make it up this year. Well,
Rikishi's got shoulder surgery, so I don't even think he's going to be around. So, I mean, go in there.
There's a lot of other big fat guys that could try and elevate.
Yeah, but I mean, I tell you, even do the thing where you have a first round match where you have Matt Hardy against Jeff Hardy. You do this fake luck of the draw thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like
or have them, have them each wrestle somebody else and have a good match, and then face each other in the semis or something like that. Or quarterfinals.
Yeah, there's ways to do it, and then have one of them wrestle Eddie Guerrero, because you can do that. You still got Eddie Guerrero out there. There's like so many, you got Edge and Christian. Because to me, the other thing I would want to do on this show, and I haven't given this nearly the thought that those guys have that are booking this, because I actually gave it about 10 minutes of thought when somebody mentioned to me about like they're debating on whether they're going to go with Benoit versus Angle, or Benoit versus Regal at the thing, and I started thinking, like,
give them both.
Why don't they? It's like saying they got this King of the Ring. Why don't they just do both? Okay, and make the King of the Ring mean something? Because if they take Benoit out of King of the Ring, I mean, they're not even going to have a King of the Ring. Who are they going to put over? No one's going to care anyway.
The whole thing is, I know that there's a feeling that you do something surprising that people don't expect and they're happy about it, but I can guarantee you that last year, if they would have done a tournament with a ton of great matches, people would have been far more happy than they were surprised to see Rikishi get the win there. Why surprise people? Just give them good matches. When have there ever been two guys that nobody cared about that had a hell of a match and people complained? Never.
Actually, that's probably happened.
How?
But I just know. I know that. You ever go to like there's a show, like a WWF show, where these two guys in the dark match are having a hell of a match and everyone's complaining because the Mean Street Posse isn't on yet?
I guess that's.
I've seen that. It does happen. Now it won't happen with the guys that they could put in this King of the Ring though. But I mean, I'm looking at they got so many good workers, and the other thing is the one thing I wouldn't want to do is anything, especially since they did it again last night, is anything where you got a tag team match involving Edge and Christian, the Dudleys, and the Hardys against each other. It's just like, even though it's always good, I enjoy it 95% of the time. It's just time for them to branch out in other directions. And so if you do the 7-man tournament, and you do Austin, so that's 8 matches right there, and you can do like one really good gimmick match, maybe involving, Kane's Intercontinental Champions, just to have like Kane wrestle, somebody. I don't know who, and or China and Lita even. If you're going to
Kane, please.
Well, no, I'm just saying if they may need to continue that program just for storyline purposes. They're going to continue whether we like it or not. Whatever. There's or just do some sort of a tag team thing. Dudleys and the Hollies. I don't know. Just throw something there. You got your 7 matches in the tournament, and then you got your main event. That's 9 matches. That's plenty. That's a whole show right there.
Can I just add one more thing?
Yes.
Nobody wants to see China in the tournament this year.
I know. We got so many emails. I can't even believe how many emails we got. But before we get to those, the poll, for those people who think that everyone that listens to this show is always negative and complaining, it is not that. It's when there's a good show, they say it's a good show. 63% said the show was excellent. This is Raw for Monday night. 13% said it was good. 2% said it was average. And 2% said it was bad. And 20% didn't see the show, so basically people loved the show. Rave reviews, and the show deserved rave reviews. Maybe we'll get another one tomorrow night, just like that. Let's start hitting emails before John Cena is up. Is it true that FMW may challenge the WWF-WCW merger on antitrust grounds? No, they just wrote a stupid press release, but no, they will not. On last night's show, you said...
And the death matches that they challenged the WWF to will also be taking place.
Yes. It's from Ron, who says, for King of the Ring, this is a good one, how about booking Benoit in convincing fashion to win King of the Ring with a crossface clean every single match? Or does that merely establish him the king of the mid-carders? I actually wouldn't have him win he just needs to crossface this Big Show. I wouldn't want him to crossface Regal. He doesn't need to. And Angle, I don't know. That one could go either way. We've got a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of suggestions
about 3 different submissions.
That's really good. That's good. If he beats Angle, beat him with like an armbar or something. Get something new over, right?
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Real good idea. A lot of people emailed in ideas for celebrities WWF could bring in. Now, I was not looking for Jennifer Lopez because I don't think that there's anything they could do with Jennifer Lopez that would be worth the money they spent on her. That's something that WCW would have done with Carmen Electra, for their own, you know what I mean? For their own, like, what do I call it? Their own jollies, which makes no sense for business. Yes. This is from Michael, who says, I have to disagree with you concerning Goldberg, Flair, and Nash being headliners. I'm not a huge WCW fan, but on Raw, I was praying for the likes of Booker T to show up to put an end to the beatdown Shane was doing on Kurt Angle. If you think that Booker T's got more upward potential than Goldberg, you're wrong. He doesn't. I'm a big fan of Booker T. Let's see.
Hey, guys.
Yes.
We've got John Cena on the line. He can only hang with us for a half hour because they're doing the TV tapings tonight. So we kind of
we'll get to him and we'll get to the emails. We'll get to more emails after we're going with John. John, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How's everything?
It's going really good. How'd the move go?
It was good. It was worry free, so I'm happy about that.
And how long have you been up there?
This will be the beginning of like week 3 for me.
What's it like moving from Los Angeles to Kentucky?
It is a lifestyle change, to say the least. That's pretty much what it is. It's just a lot slower out here.
Are the things that you miss and things that you like differently, or?
No, to tell you the truth, I actually like it out here a lot more.
Really?
Yeah.
Less traffic.
This is my kind of style out here. I'm a guy who enjoys all the stuff that's going on out here. I wasn't unhappy in California, but I mean I just like it out here a lot better.
It's a lot cheaper out there, isn't it? Probably easier like buying milk and groceries and stuff, right?
Yes,
Food.
it is.
I'm thinking of moving there myself.
All that beef.
Actually, John, you're still eating a whole lot less than before, right?
Yeah. I still got my weight around 235.
Wow, that's
feeling
light.
great. Actually, I'm in a situation where I'm actually used to the diet now. Everything is going real good, so I mean, I'm happy with it.
Now, what do you think is the biggest change as far as your wrestling life goes? Being in Ohio Valley Wrestling, and so you're in a totally new environment as far as they're teaching you different things, and you're with different guys.
Yeah, I mean, we're here to wrestle. I mean, all I've done for 2 weeks is wrestle. In California, it's a great environment, but there's also a lot of room for distractions and other stuff. I pretty much wake up, practice. We watch tape evals of ourselves during practice or during the last TV shows. I've been watching the past 3 months of OVW TV shows to try to get myself caught up in the storyline and people's styles and stuff like that. So I've been involved with wrestling from the second I wake up to the second I go to sleep.
How was it like the first couple of weeks there? Did they try and beat you down or anything like that, or was it just like you slipped right in with everybody else?
I actually was extremely pleased on how everybody kind of welcomed me into the team. I mean, it's not like you walk in, you're automatically, in. But the guys are real nice. Everybody's got a positive attitude. Everybody wants to get better. So, I mean, we all want to learn things from each other, and they got the right people running the show up here, and it's really good.
Who have you worked with, and what program do you seem to be building towards?
I've worked with most of it. Let me see. I recently worked a tag match with Ron Waterman and Brian Keck. I've worked with Nick Densmore a little bit. And besides that, in practice, I mean, I've worked with all the guys, but besides that, I've only had like 2 or 3 matches. And tonight is my first TV debut, and I'm doing some sort of run-in with some angle. I honestly don't know what it is because they're putting it together right now, but I'll find out after tonight.
So are you being introduced as a heel or a babyface, or do you even know?
Honestly, they're putting the whole thing together because they didn't know if I was going to be here on time. I just got back from California. I was filming the end segments of Manhunt. And
that's right, yeah.
Yeah, I just made it back in time for TV, so they figured, what the hell, we'll give it a go and get them on.
What did you do as far as that show?
Yeah, what's Manhunt? How's Manhunt? Yeah.
Yeah, Manhunt is great. I mean, the show just needed a little reworking. We shot it in January. It was completely done in January. The networks looked at it. They decided they wanted a little bit different twist on it. So they just needed a few voiceovers and a little bit of reshooting, and we're all set to go. It's going to be a hell of a show. It's like a reality series with a little bit of WWF twinge on it. It's going to be real exciting to watch.
So you're one of the hunters? I
am indeed one of the hunters. Thank my lucky
Anyone
star.
else that we would have known that was doing that?
What's that?
Anyone else we would have known that was doing that?
Yeah, anyone else from wrestling involved in the show?
No, they pretty much I was the only one who got picked with any wrestling background. They just pretty much picked 2 actors to do the rest.
Mm-hmm. So now is the deal that you're like some people are trying to escape from you on an island, or? The
deal is, the storyline goes, I pretty much invite 13 people to my island. If they can survive for 6 days, they get $250,000. But I'm definitely not going to let them get that money.
Now, what
so
do you
basically,
use?
that started out as a storyline, but then you're actually hunting these people.
Well, no, that's the whole concept of it. I invite them to the island to be hunted, and if they can survive the hunt, they get $250,000.
Now, what does survive
So it is
mean?
actually a contest, the hunting part.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Okay, now, what does it mean by survive? I mean, you have to find them? Do you have to stalk them and kill them? Or?
Shoot them?
We go out and hunt them, and we have like high-power paintball guns, and if they get hit a certain number of times, they're out, and when they get eliminated, they get their head shaved.
Really?
Yeah, it's
a little bit of luchador stuff, huh? Yeah. They should have brought some mask guys so you could at least take some masks while you're at it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But no, that went really well, and that's I guess that's looking to air towards the end of August.
Yeah, on UPN.
So, yeah, that should be pretty good. Yep.
What are the biggest training differences between UPW and OVW? As far as like the schedule and everything.
I don't want to take anything away from UPW, but the wrestling sense out here is brilliant. Danny Davis and Jim Cornette are two of the most intelligent people I've ever come across as far as the wrestling business. They know the ins and outs. They know everything. Like they won't necessarily try to change your style. They'll take what they got and they'll make you better. They could make anybody into a wrestler. Their talent and their knowledge is just unbelievable. So differences from here in California is just they've raised the bar. They're above us over in California.
Mm-hmm. From a confidence level as you get in the ring, whether it be tonight or on some of the shows, do you feel like more confident in the ring now that you've got this intense training?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's still not perfect, and by no means am I, at the level where I can, go into the TV program. But with those guys critiquing everything and really getting on you about the little things that can make you better, I'm still nervous when I get in there, but I'm a lot less nervous because even if I mess up, they'll take what we got and they'll tell me exactly what I need to make it better, and I'll be able to see it. I can't go off of people's, words. Like in UPW, we don't necessarily videotape everything, so people can say, oh, your punches look weak, but I don't necessarily know how to fix it. We watch the tapes over here, and people will say, oh, you got to get down in your drop downs or your punches look weak, and I can watch the tape, and they can point it out, and I can say, you know what, you're right, I'll do this to change it, and then it'll get changed. So, I mean, you just constantly get better every time you go in the ring.
I think that's such a simple thing that a lot of people don't do is just watch tapes of themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, that is the world of difference because in UPW, you can think you're doing a ton of stuff right, or in other environments, you think you can do, you finally get to a point where you're comfortable in the ring and you think all your stuff looks good, but in reality, you may be comfortable, but there's a million little things you can do to make your style look a lot better and a lot more realistic, and that's what they got out here because they got cameras going on everything.
Do you find it like at any point coming in humbling, or is it more like you understand where you're at right now and this is your this is what you're here to improve?
Yeah. I'm a very humble guy to begin with, and I don't go into anywhere thinking of myself as a superstar or anything like that. I love wrestling, and I want to wrestle. That's what I want to do. I am proud as all hell to be part of this team because I look at these guys, and these guys are the future of the WWF, and I know that the WWF is going to be in good hands because these guys are all excellent. There's unlimited potential down here, and I'm just extremely happy to be part of this group. And I know that they got a great set of minds behind them, and with their talent and the moldings of Jim Cornette and Danny Davis, not only is WWF going to have a great future, but hopefully they're going to help me get to the next level as well.
Now you're scheduled. How often, once you get going, how many shows a week are they doing? And it's pretty much the travel isn't that bad in that area, right?
Isn't bad because Kentucky and Indiana, the Kentuckiana circuit is a brilliant wrestling market. Everybody's into it. Everybody wants to see wrestling. So we can have anywhere from 4 to 6 shows a week, but it's all local stuff. I mean, we can work Danny Davis Arena twice a week, which is where we have our TVs. We work a local City of Kentucky show at St. Therese Gym every week, and then we usually travel to maybe 1 to 3 places. And then we're doing something every day, whether it's a show or practice, and sometimes we have both. So we'll have practice in the morning and a show at night. But no, the travel is not that strenuous. commutes at the maximum 2.5 hours each way.
Yeah, I know Cornette is really old school, so if you do a match in, like, one building, and the next day you have a show, like, 20 miles away, does he demand that you do the match completely differently, just to make sure that nobody thinks that it's maybe fake?
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, in a sense, that's great. I think everybody who's learning this profession should go through that, and that's why I'm so happy here, because I grew up watching the old, you know, the kayfabe style of wrestling, and that's what made me a fan of it. And it's totally different today, and the game has completely changed. But to be involved with something like this, and the fact that kayfabe is so strict around here, and everything is taken care of in an old school type manner, I think everybody needs to go through that. Not only to just learn that style, but you get a better respect for the business. And in California, it's almost like it's just another thing. Like, wrestling is just another thing. You're keeping up with the latest trend. Out here, it's like, this is what it is. You know, this is wrestling. This is where it originates. This is like back in the glory days. It's like it's just a different ballgame out here, and it does teach you a lot of respect.
Now you've been watching a lot of the tapes to catch up on everything that's going on. What guys are you looking forward to, and what are the guys that are there? Is it hard for you being there? It's something that Brian actually brought up. Some of the guys you're probably already becoming friends with, and some of them, based on what your television character, half of those guys you cannot be seen in public with after tonight, probably.
Oh yeah. But you know, I mean, that's basically how it is out here. And Jim Cornette's really forefront about kayfabe. You know, heels don't talk to faces, and vice versa. You guys aren't seen in public with each other. So I mean, like I said, we're doing something every day, whether it's driving to a show or practicing every day. So, I mean, there's plenty of interaction between the guys. It's not like, you know, the faces don't make friends with the heels and vice versa. We all know each other. We're all in it together. But at the same time,
it's not in public.
Yeah, we keep it old school.
You guys have to send notes back and forth between the locker rooms at a show?
Say that again?
As far as, like, if you're working a show and you're in one locker room and the I guess babyface or heels or whoever's in the other locker room, you have to send notes back and forth?
No. As a matter of fact, and Cornette's great, and this is just another tool to get you to work. I mean, a lot of the guys are new, and they'll talk out some stuff beforehand, but when you're in your two different locker rooms, you got to just go out there and work. And that's not only does it keep a little old school realisticness to the business, but you also how to learn how to work in front of a crowd and actually work the crowd instead of plan out your matches, you know, beforehand.
Yeah.
How much interaction have you had with Bobby Eaton?
As much as I can get. Every time he's at all of our practices, he critiques all of our matches. It's a little tough to understand him because he talks a little bit of a southern drawl, but he has a wealth of knowledge. I mean, he was another one of the guys that I watched growing up, him and Stan Lane in the Midnight Express, and obviously Jim Cornette. And he is as good as he should be. He's got a lot of stuff to say, and he's really good on critiquing the little things, and he is a true master of psychology.
You know, one of the things a lot of people don't know about you is your father was involved in the wrestling business on the promotional end, right?
Yeah. In like the mid to late 70s, he used to do local Massachusetts high school promotions. And, you know, he got out of that after he had all of us. He had about 3 kids in a span of 3 years, so after that, he was pretty much done with it.
So now, when you were growing up, did you have a little bit of wrestling influence, or not a whole lot?
I had a whole lot of wrestling influence, but no ring work, no nothing. You know, I had never been in the ring before. UPW was the very first time I was exposed to the quote-unquote business aspect of wrestling. I'd always been just a true Mark fan, and that was ever since I can remember. You know, I've been watching wrestling ever since I can remember.
How does it feel with some of those guys? There's some, especially like with Leviathan and Brock Lesnar. I mean, there's some Sylvester Turkey as well. There's some like very large men in that camp right now.
You know what? This is I call it the Matrix out here, and I like the third day I was out here because you got guys like Shelton Benjamin, who is just a mutant. The kid is shredded to the bone at 235 pounds, but can go around drinking Mountain Dew and eating Pringles, and he can do. You just tell him to do a move, and he'll do it. You don't even have to explain. You know. Shelton, go up to the top, do 2 flips, and then, you know, hit something on the guy. Okay, and he'll jump up and do it. And then you got Brock, who's, you know, 6'6", 275, who can do a shooting star press to perfection, and all this stuff looks like it kills you, but, you know, he's soft as a slipper full of baby crap. And then Leviathan has probably got the best look of a wrestler I have ever seen, period. He is a true mutant. He looks like they found him from another planet. Like, everybody out here has such unbelievable talent. It's like they gathered a crew of X-Men, and like Cornette and Danny Davis are just warping the mutants.
You know what's funny about Leviathan is that because he sometimes wears that. The way his head is, you almost think there's going to screws on the side. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And when
he's got that look where he was like, he looks like he's built in a laboratory.
Yeah, he really does. And a lot of, I'd only seen pictures over the web, and I'm in shape myself, and I'm figuring, this guy's big, but okay, I'll go meet him and everything will be fine. I saw him and I'm like, damn man, you're really big. Like, he is just.
Does he have the fangs and everything?
He is just huge, and with the contacts, and when he gets in his gimmick, he's a scary looking dude.
Yeah.
So. Everybody out here is in shape. Everybody out here is like big. I fit the mold of an average size guy out here.
But that's good too, because it's going to force you to do a lot more.
Which is great, and I look forward to being actually on the smaller end of working the small end big man matches, because in UPW I'd always work big man type style, and it kind of restricted me a little bit. I can do a whole lot more than I was doing, but I'll finally get a chance to do some of it now because the storyline fits, and I'm real excited about that.
What type of are you watching like a lot of tapes?
Yes,
at the school?
I am. I'm watching as much as I can. That's one thing they enforce. Out here, the resources are available where if you want to do the work, it's available for you. You can watch. Cornette's got over 10,000 hours of tape, and all you got to do is ask him. He'll give you whatever you want. But if you don't ask him, he won't give you anything. The opportunity is there for you to watch it all the time, and I'm trying to take full advantage of that. Yeah.
What type of stuff are you watching? What type of stuff is he like encouraging you? Go like, hey, you can watch this guy, or do you kind of just go like, hey, I want to watch this?
Every once in a while, with certain guys, they'll push certain tapes on you. But because I'm new and they haven't really seen what I've done yet, and I'm really not in a program of TV, they're just giving me like basics. They give you initially when you get there, they give you a 4-volume study tape. It's 4 6-hour tapes. It's just singles matches. Each match depicts a certain style. They have the first volume is like great matches. The second volume is like wrestling superstars. Third volume is promos and weird stuff. The fourth volume is like great wrestling feuds. Along with that, they give you a 6-hour tag team tape. So right there, off the bat, you got 30 hours of footage that comes with a note packet that says, oh, in this match, watch the punches, everything looks stiff, the selling is great, watch how they milk the crowd, watch their pacing, and then it'll go on the next match and describe something about the next match. So without them being there over your shoulder saying, this is what you watch, this is how you evaluate it, this whole series is great because you can sit home during your free time, you can watch it, look at the notepad, and be like, oh, man, they're so right. That looks great. I'll try to emulate that, or that's something I can take from that match.
So now, who are in these tapes that you're watching? Is like a lot of Flair or Rock and Roll Express or different people like that?
They have a lot of Flair, a lot of Terry Funk, a little bit of Dynamite Kid and Tiger Mask from Japan. They're favorable to the Midnight Rock and Roll feud. Let me see. They show a lot of old Jerry Lawler matches when he was doing the Louisville Gardens. Let me see. Obviously, Danny Davis, I've gotten his 2-volume tag team tape when he was part of the Nightmares. It shows him working a lot with the Tommy Rich tag team. Just a lot of stuff, varied stuff, and that's the cool thing. They don't push one wrestler on you. They just give you a cornucopia of stuff, and that you take the best from everything, and you just watch and learn from everybody.
Let's go to Dave in New York. Dave, what's going on?
Okay. Makes me jealous listening how you can watch all the Jim Cornette tapes. Yeah, because I saw that shoot interview he did with RS Video, and at the end he just shows off his wrestling merchandise in tape room.
He is, yeah. The wrestling room, as we call it down here.
He's got those. I don't know. Have you seen any of those '70s Jim Crockett tapes that he got?
I haven't yet. I've kind of been getting the stuff that I know I'll try to benefit from off him. Just mostly, like I said, I like watching like DiBiase style stuff. So I ask him for stuff like that, and he'll give me whatever he can.
Yeah,
but I haven't even tapped the resources that man has for video footage.
He one day when they were cleaning out the Jim Crockett library, I think this was after Crockett had sold the thing, like some like night watchman like uncovered like some blanket, and all of a sudden there are all these tapes they were just going to throw out, and somehow Jim Cornette found out about them. They weren't videotapes. They were I forget whatever they were shooting in the.
You mean the
Not
like
8
3/4
tracks.
ring tape.
Something, yeah, like stuff that they did in the 70s. So he transferred them all, having no idea what they were, and it turned out it was like, all of these house show matches from the mid 70s. With a young Ric Flair and Johnny Valentine and the Andersons and Steamboat when he was very, very young, and so he's got all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, my question for John is, what do you think of the policies that Rick Bassman kind of enforces with his shows and with his wrestlers? Kind of having the short matches only once a month and not letting his guys work other indie dates, which is kind of the opposite of the OVW philosophy, because they're telling you to work as many dates as possible.
Yep. Don't get me wrong. I owe everything that I've accomplished so far to Rick Bassman, and I'm very proud to be a part of UPW. But they just need more shows. OVW is not that healthy about allowing everybody to work other independent dates because they have such a stringent schedule themselves. Sometimes they'll be working every day of the week. You'll have a show every day of the week. On a short week, you'll have 4 shows. So, and these are legitimate shows. They're not just, okay, let's practice a match in the ring. They're in front of a crowd. You get to work. I'm not a big fan of the one show a month policy. I'm not a big fan of the TV style matches. I like OVW because one day out of the week you'll have a TV style match, and then the other 3 you're going to have to work your tail off. You're going to have to go 30 minutes, or you're going to have to go 20 minutes, and it's just like I said before. They get you to work, and then if you need to, you can cut it down to a 5-minute match, but you can support yourself out there and not look ridiculous for 30 minutes. So I'm much happier working this type of style. This is what I thought that wrestling was when I got involved with it. And as far as UPW is concerned, I think that's the one major thing that they're missing. They're missing a couple guys out there, a couple veterans that work that type of style. And I'm not saying that's the gold standard on style, but I'm just saying that I think every wrestler should learn that. And if they want to use it, fine. But if they don't, at least they have it in their back pocket.
Why do you think that Rick Bassman is trying to prevent some of his guys from working other shows? Because Dave, didn't you cover something on the website?
I don't know what the whole story was. I just know that Frankie Kazarian was supposed to work on Saturday, and they gave some speech.
I can give you a pretty good insight on that. There's a company called Millennium Pro Wrestling, I believe, and Frankie went down there and did their first show and won a strap. Now, there's a company in Southern California, a rival market with ours, who is going to start running a TV program. UPW is a little bit behind on their TV. Like, we don't have one yet, but they're trying to get a TV program, and I think that would be great because that's something they're missing. They run a TV-style show, but they don't have a program. The only reason that Rick doesn't want the talent working for Millennium Pro Wrestling is because then you got guys on UPW maybe doing an angle, and then the next week in the same town in front of the same viewers, you got guys on Millennium Pro doing a different angle. So it's just like that. Not only does that truly expose wrestling, but in the same sense, it could bury guys from either side of the ball, Like Frankie could look great in UPW, and then they might work some cheesy angle with him over at the other side where he gets buried, or vice versa. So that's protection of talent. I think that actually that's a smart move.
Yeah, but why not just let the guy work house shows to get experience?
What's that?
Why not just let the guy work house shows to get experience?
Oh no. I've been working indies. Rick is very lenient on who you work for.
Oh, okay, that can.
It's just the only reason that there was a controversy with that is it came down to TV exposure.
Okay.
And that's where whatever Rick has been working on is now ruined because Frankie will be on TV for Millennium first and not UPW. So that's the impression that the fans get. Rick, I've been working the last 4 months. I was with Rick. I'd be working indies all the time, and I'd see. I'd work APW, I'd go to Arizona, I'd go to Massachusetts, I'd go all over the place. He's not, against that. He wants the guys to work. He just doesn't want to ruin what he has by putting you on TV somewhere else.
Oh, okay. See the story.
And that's perfectly logical.
Yeah.
That's kind of the mentality they have up here, too. I mean, if I want to work somewhere like in Oregon, that's fine, but if it's a show that's in the same general area, Tim would kill me.
Yeah, and that's blatantly obvious because it ruins everything the promoter's trying to do in that area because the same fans see the same person. Yeah. I mean, that's basically how it should be. So the only problem is in Southern California, you got like 25 different feds. So I mean, and the same fans go to every match. So you got to watch yourself with who you work for down there.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, that reminds me of when SMW and USWA were doing their interpromotional feud, and remember they had a lot of contradicting storylines on TV.
Yeah, because
they had no overlaps, right?
They did have an overlap.
Oh,
they had
did?
one. They had. I think it was like. I could be wrong, but I think it was like Cookeville, Tennessee. There was some city that was actually the overlap, which was really weird because they would run the interpromotional there, and that one, you've got the babyface, depending on the TV. So it was a very weird mix of fans. I think they only had one city that was an overlap.
Yeah, and that's what'll happen. But I mean, Southern California is a huge area, and if you get an overlap there, then you got it's almost like you got a man without a country. You don't know whether he's a face or a heel, and then you got to start from the beginning again. That's tough, especially when you're only, like with UPW's case, when you're only running one big show a month. So you only have one chance a month to establish a character.
Okay. Thanks for answering my question.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
By the way, F-Land Storm.
Okay. As far as when you were in Massachusetts a couple weeks ago, Sheldon Goldberg sent us an email and just said, he just wanted to, praise you and Frankie Kazarian for how well you did tearing down the house for him, and just wished you the best of luck and everything.
Well, I have nothing but positive things to say about Sheldon. He runs a top-notch promotion over there. All those guys out there in all those guys in New England Championship, they were nothing but friendly to us. I mean, I've been working out in California, but I'm from Massachusetts. The second I got there is like all the guys clicked with us, and I've worked 100 times with Frankie, and it was like us going through the motions again. But he had a great house that night, and the storyline worked perfect. It was like a hometown hero versus the out-of-town heel, and it went over great. And Sheldon was nothing but great to us, and that was, to date, that was actually the best match I've ever had. And I was very proud of Frankie for doing all the stuff that we wanted to do, and everything. It's one of those things where you talk about something back in the locker room, and you're like, oh, this might work out. And you go out there, and everything works out. Like nothing went bad. It was all good.
Did you watch Raw Monday night?
I didn't. I was actually flying over to California, but I wish I could have seen it. I know. I heard that Triple H got banged up real bad. That's all I heard from Raw.
You really need to watch a tape of the main event. If not, you don't even have to watch the whole show, but just the main event, because I mean that's like one of those things where you're watching it and it's just sort of like, how everything just clicks at once and you're just going like, now this is like when it's at the Ultimate, this is like what it is, and that match came probably about as close to that as almost any match all year, I think. It was really just this, from the storyline to the work to the announcing to the crowd. I mean, I'd go out of your way to get a tape of that one match.
And those are a rarity, but when you see something like that, it totally stands out because you know that everything's clicking like that, and that's what it's all about. That's the goal of everybody to put together a story like that.
John, I want to thank you very much. I know that you're like really, really busy, and I just want to thank you so much for just taking the time out today before TV and everything like that. And good luck tonight, and good luck in Ohio Valley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Meltzer. For you, the world. If you need anything from me, you guys give me a call. I'll do what I can to get back on the show. And I thank you very much for having me once again.
God, those Cornette stories are awesome, aren't they? With the notebook and the tape, the 6-tape set.
I want that 6-tape set.
I know. Well, maybe we work on getting that. I tell you what, the WWF of all of the things that they have done, that developmental territory in Ohio Valley, putting Jim Cornette in charge of it with Danny Davis was probably one of the better moves that company has ever made. I mean, as far as there's nobody else who's going to go through match by match and give these guys notebooks and go, watch the selling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody else is that. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. There's only one Jim Cornette, is what I'm trying to say.
Stringent.
It's like, some of the stuff I mean is almost like comedy to me, as far as like how stringent he is at certain aspects. But as far as teaching these guys, I mean, God, they couldn't have picked a better guy. And
hey, I have nothing wrong with baby faces and heels not hanging out in public, all that old school stuff. Why not? You want to learn how to wrestle? That's the way you got to do it.
Yeah. I mean, there's some stuff where it
is kind of strange, though, because, I mean, even up here, like, my friend Buddy Wayne is real good friends with Cornette, and he's the exact same way. We'll drive together, but he'll make me park, blocks away, and he'll go, make sure you're walking at least 300 yards behind me, and go in separate doors, all this stuff, and it's weird, but I don't have a problem with it.
Well, I don't mind the idea that two guys who are going to wrestle each other, don't go in the same car, and certainly don't hang out in front of the fans together. There's certain things. But I don't know. It is 2001 as well. You know what I mean? And people kind of see it as entertainment. But
we've talked about it a million times. Even like basic wrestling angles is the same now as it was 100 years ago. And some things, when you get to the WWF, great. You can ride in the same car and smoke pot with the guy and get arrested or whatever. And that's fine. But when you're learning, why not?
No, it is good to learn from someone who has so much respect for wrestling. That, you kind of, you at least learn that value system. You know what? That is a good value. There's a lot of parts of that value system that are good to know. The other thing with Cornette is, like with the booking, they do, whether it draws or not, and it's impossible to draw, like big crowds when you're running, 5 nights a week within in a small geographical area. And especially when you're running independent wrestling, now, it's just so difficult. But, he does logical progression of feuds, so these guys, they learn how to build a feud, so then when they get to go somewhere where they have some creative writer as booker who never watched wrestling, but never paid attention to why it worked and booked these feuds all backwards, then they can get headaches like us, right?
That's right.
Oh, anyway, but I thought that was pretty good there. Let's see. What is your opinion, this is from Robert, of why WWF is giving Jericho the main bout at the pay-per-view instead of Benoit? I personally agree with the decision because Jericho has the mic skills to build interest in an angle. I think Benoit to be in the main event needs a mouthpiece like he had with Shane the last time he did a pay-per-view main event. It was just, as far as I don't agree, it had to be with someone. I don't disagree, with the decision. Either one would have been fine, and they're both getting the push. That's the key. The key is, and I'll tell you what, for morale, it's turned in a few short days. The morale, if you think the morale of people watching is turned around, the morale of the guys is turned around because they all see, after 6 weeks of going oh my God, this is everything that WCW did. All of a sudden they put on 2 TV shows, which are exactly what, in both cases, what WCW in the same situation would not have done. WCW would have gone, oh my God, our ratings are down. Let's put Sting against Kevin Nash again and bury everybody else.
Yeah. When things are bad and people complain, when things are bad and people complain and other people say, hey, just enjoy it, that's the WCW mentality. But when things are getting better and they're doing things right, let's not complain too much.
Yes. Is it true that Bam Bam Bigelow has done some shoot fighting outside of wrestling? He did one shoot fight with Chemo on a Japanese show, and it was quite a brutal match, and he came out on the short end of that. But that's it. He's just done one match. Any news where Disco Inferno is? He just, his contract ran out, and so he's a free agent. Let's see. Are they going to bury Malenko and Saturn or get rid of them or send them to WCW? Well, I doubt they're going to get rid of them. They could send them to WCW, but those decisions have not been made. So who won 99 King of the Ring? Wasn't that Billy Gunn, the one that we want to forget? 99 King of the Ring?
99, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. This is from someone. I watched Lucha last night and have a few questions. One, DirecTV has something called alternative audio. This option allows Spanish-speaking people to get an alternative audio feed on English-speaking shows. Why doesn't EMLL or AAA take advantage of this to provide an English feed? Their promos go on forever, and it really sucks when you don't understand Spanish. They probably just, I think that their feeling is that nobody that doesn't understand Spanish watches those shows, which is actually probably wrong. Because, I watched most of the EMLL last night, and, then when AAA started, I tried to find something else to do. The rules are different on tags, or do the referees really suck at keeping the Rudos out of the ring? No, you can just replace someone. You don't have to tag. So that's just different. How come the ring looks like it has less give than the mats on the floor? Because it probably does. Yeah. Is Giant Silva Kurgan's brother? No. Is Silver King on HGH? We'll probably get questions about a lot of different guys in this business on steroids all the time. But I never expected that we would get one on Silver King. He goes, he should be, if they're going to show him posing, his arms should be better than a gym teacher. I hope Dr. Wagner kills him. Hey, they're brothers. One of the things in Mexico is, it's almost comedic to me, is when they show the intros of everybody, they're always doing bodybuilding
those
poses.
Goofy poses.
Right. Whether they have good bodies or bad bodies, they're always flexing, and it's really funny. It's not so funny when you got the guys with the good bodies, but when you got the guys with the bad bodies out there flexing, because it's always been like that, I always found it like this campy deal, kind of like, one of those weird things about Lucha Libre. And then finally, why were some of the fans behind a steel fence? I thought the wrestlers were supposed to be in a cage. And how much for the seats behind the fence? That's at Arena Coliseo in the upper deck. And I don't know why they have that cage there. There's probably a real good reason having to do with fan violence, I'm guessing, or just so nobody falls over the balcony. But as far as how much the tickets
are... All it takes is one fan falling over the balcony, and all of a sudden you got to make a cage.
Yeah. But as far as the tickets, I'm not sure what the prices are these days for Arena Coliseo and Arena Mexico, but compared to WWF, the ticket prices are very cheap. We used to go down there to Tijuana and get... not
come
that
back with more money.
Well, not quite, but we would go down there and we would get, for an awesome show, an all-star show, go down there and spend $10 and get second row ringside. And you know what I mean? You could probably get in for like 3 or 4, and there's not a bad seat at the auditorium. The worst seat at the auditorium is, it's like one of those old-time pit buildings, so every seat's good anyway. Oh, man. I used to have so much fun going to those shows. Let's go to Jim in Colorado. Jim, what's going on?
Yeah, from what you've heard on the TLC match, does Benoit have trouble reaching the tag team titles?
I don't know.
He didn't bust out the 5-foot ladder like on the pay-per-view.
Oh, well, if he wins King of the Ring, do you think that he'll have trouble putting on the crown?
Okay, you're gone. This is from Terry in North Carolina. Terry, what's up? Terry is gone.
You there?
Let's go to Gerard. Let's go to somebody. Anybody.
Hey, hello.
Who is this?
Hello, who's up? Hey,
Gerard, what's going on?
Not much. I just wanted to comment on Triple H going down. Yes. In my opinion, I think it's worse than when Austin went down. Not ratings-wise, but maybe quality-wise, even though, it was good on Monday, and from what I keep reading and hearing about the tapings, it was good. But when Austin went down, you had Triple H that came up, The Rock,
they had The Rock
still around.
Yeah. You're right.
Michaels made a couple appearances, and then Undertaker ended up coming back.
Foley as well. Foley carried that TV a lot during that period.
Yeah, but now The Rock's gone, Triple H is gone. Michaels, I don't care what kind of attitude or what problems he has, I think that they should have him on a plane to be on Raw.
No. The minute you start playing that game, you're dead. We've already seen that with WCW. The minute you let the inmates run the asylum, you're dead.
Oh, you mean like in the old skit with Scott Hall wheeling in the back?
No, it's like if a guy is not a professional, you can't hire him and say, well, golly, he gave us 5-star matches 7 years ago or 4 years ago or whatever it was, so therefore he has carte blanche to show up and not be professional, because then it tells everyone on the mid-card that,
they're not moving.
whatever, we don't have to be professional either, and it creates this attitude where, guys do what they do.
Yeah.
Nobody's professional, and it becomes unprofessional wrestling, and nobody wants to do jobs for anybody, and they all complain. And Shawn Michaels, if he's ready and he can perform, he will get his chance. And if he doesn't, he only has himself to blame. And if he's not ready and he can't do it, and they bring him in anyway, then they're going to be WCW. And I'm really afraid of that. That's one of the things why I was so adamant when they brought Big Show back and then put him over Benoit and Jericho, even though sort of the cream's risen to the top with time anyway. But that whole thing of what did it tell Benoit and Jericho after busting their ass in that ladder match and busting their ass for months, that this guy
more cheeseburgers.
That this guy who didn't get in, who was told to go away and get in shape and become a better worker, who comes back still not a good worker, still not in shape, is pushed ahead of them, and then all of a sudden it's got that demoralizing effect on the whole dressing room. So to me, it's like if Shawn comes in and he's ready and he can go and he can do something, of course you should put him on TV. But if not, and if he doesn't go and get help, you don't change the rules for Shawn Michaels or anyone, hopefully, or else you're gonna have a lot of problems. Anyway, go ahead.
Do you think that that now that Triple H is down, this might be an opportunity to push Test? I think he's like the second. He looks just like Nash, except everything I've ever heard. He doesn't have that bad attitude, and he
works a lot harder. That's for sure. I don't think the Triple H being down has any effect on if a guy like Test. It's like they're either going to push him or they're not. Where it's going to force their hand, I think, is on a guy like Kurt Angle, who they may kind of forget about. I think that there's probably in their minds right now, Kurt Angle has got to be a main eventer. In fact, I've looked at, I guess some of what they're looking for is a lot, as far as like the main program for house shows. I think now that they're looking at Benoit and Jericho against Austin and Angle, which will again force them to do something big with Angle. So Angle's the one, just like Triple H benefited when Austin was gone, and Rock benefited even more probably.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this is where, Angle and probably Jericho are probably going to be the ones who, have the chance, and now, it's up to them to sink or swim maybe.
Okay, I have one more thing to say. I'm gonna be at King of the Ring, and I got floor seats. I'm gonna bring a sign for you guys just to say hello, and I'm gonna misspell it on purpose.
Okay. The WWE will be thrilled.
All right.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, you're very welcome. Let's go to Eric. Eric, what's up?
Hey, guys.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, I didn't get a chance to call in yesterday because I couldn't get through, but Raw was amazing.
Oh, you were there live?
Finish.
No, I mean, I watched it on TV, and I was marking out the whole show. I
got to tell you something, what's interesting about that show is how many people have talked to me in the last days saying, and we've talked about this too, that not only did they watch the show, but then they went and watched that last match again and again. Because I've watched it now 3 times. And I'll probably watch it again, sometime today. It was that good.
It's kind of always the mark of a match that it just kind of goes past that level is you just keep watching it.
Yeah, I agree.
Some of those Rock and Angle and Austin and Benoit and Austin matches, I just watch them over and over.
I saw part of Lucha last night, like I usually do. I'm going to watch the rest of the tape later on, but it was kind of funny. You got to see Giant Silva and Super Porky on the same team.
Yeah.
It was a great thing.
I saw just a few minutes. There was something. Oh, what was it? Oh, they showed Tarzan Boy's neck X-rays between him and Perro Aguayo. They've got all these bolts and everything in their heads.
I know.
Oh my God.
Also got to see La Parka get a chair held up against his face and smash with the bar. That was, fun.
Was that Parka, or was that one of the fake Parkas?
It's probably like Parka Jr.
I think it was La Parka. I'm not sure though.
Yeah, they've got La Parka Jr. on AAA.
Parkas.
There's Super Parka, La Parka Jr., and the real Parka. Because the real Parka I haven't seen on TV.
Girlfriend of La Parka.
Yeah. Parka, yeah.
Triple A is just hard to watch. It's just not fun. But got a few questions.
AAA, I know. And, AAA, there was a time when AAA was the best wrestling in the whole world. Like in, what year? 94 maybe? Maybe was it I think it even won Promotion of the Year one year, like 94-ish, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought a few years.
When they had all those great young guys, and then Pena, the thing that happened to Pena was, Pena's one of those guys who watches and he imitates America. Like a lot of people in foreign countries, they want to imitate America. And he got hooked on ECW, but he didn't really understand ECW when he got hooked on it.
He got hooked on the worst part of ECW.
Exactly.
And he built his whole show around that worst part. And it's it's a part of the business that it's past the peak. What does hardcore mean anymore?
Yeah, but in Mexico it is unique still. It means more in Mexico than here because, in Mexico, you got to remember also they did that same traditional style for 100 years, so.
Yeah.
I got a few questions, so if that's okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, who has to take the responsibility of being the one that trained Billy Gunn?
Was Billy Gunn trained by Andy Mansfield, maybe? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Someone will email us with that one, though.
Okay, was Alex Wright fired?
Alex Wright's
when he
contract...
was in WCW or fired now?
I mean, fired now.
Alex Wright's still under contract to Time Warner.
Okay, that's pretty much all I wanted to know. Thanks for taking my call, guys.
And this is from Sam, who's making this statement that Brian and I pretty much at 1 a.m. email back to each other all the time, and says, I'm sure you've studied the effects of steroids on people's bodies. I was wondering if you knew of muscle and ligament tears easier as a side effect of steroid use. Yes, they happen.
Funny that person should ask that question today.
What? It's the first person?
Funny they should ask that today.
Well, the same reason why we probably were asking that on Monday night. No, when you take a lot of steroids, you are more apt to muscle tears of the abdominal tears, tricep tears,
There's
pec
a lot of
tears.
imbalances where the muscle grows faster than the tendon, and the tendons can become weak.
Right. It creates a muscular imbalance when you basically your muscles become too big for your structural system. And, a lot of guys like that get a lot of injuries, and you see a lot more injuries in football players and professional wrestlers and baseball players as well. They get injuries that baseball players of 20 years ago didn't get. And it's because of those imbalances.
I mean, think of how many athletes, maybe on your high school baseball team or something, that clearly are not on these steroids. How many times do they get like a torn bicep or a torn pec or just these injuries that we happen to see in wrestling quite a bit.
Torn pecs are. I think that's. I wonder if I've ever. I mean, I'm sure people get them that don't take steroids, but almost every case of a torn pec that I can recall, or a torn abdominal muscle. I shouldn't say every case because people who get in in a sport like wrestling or something, like amateur wrestling when you're thrown the wrong way. I mean, you can get hurt doing that whether you're on steroids or not. When you're getting beaten up, but and I guess in football as well. But those type of injuries are far more plentiful among steroid users. See if let's see where we go. Isn't King of the Ring more to establish a new superstar like Crash, Albert, or Test rather than a veteran like Chris Benoit?
Only if there is actually going to be something done with that person. Great, they put Billy Gunn over, and I'm sure maybe at the time they figured, we're really going to run with this guy. He may be the next Shawn Michaels, but didn't pan out that way. Same with Rikishi, total waste. In fact, there have been a lot of King of the Rings that have been a total waste.
Hey, Mabel.
Not Austin, not Brett.
Mabel was the worst.
That was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. Then Bret Hart, one of the first ones. That was a big success. Mm-hmm. This is from Ed Laredo, who goes, the other day you were talking about 7-footers. I remember a wrestler from Georgia Championship Wrestling. I don't remember his name, but his nickname was the Tennessee Stud, and I'm not talking about Robert Fuller. He was there for a few months, then they brought in John Studd, and then he was gone. The Tennessee Stud was Ron Fuller. What? Yeah, Tennessee Stud and John Studd. I remember that feud. And it was horrible, too, by the way, as most feuds with John Studd were. That was Ron Fuller, who was actually 6'7", but Ron Fuller was a very agile, big guy and a pretty darn good worker, as I recall. Of course, he grew up in a wrestling family. I mean, his grandfathers and his uncles and everyone was a wrestler. So, most of those guys had all those Fullers had good ring psychology. Let's see. Here's someone. Okay, let's see, King of the Ring brackets. We're going to start getting these now. Okay, first round, Eddie Guerrero beats Christian. Not bad. Kurt Angle beats Matt Hardy. Benoit beats Edge. Regal beats Jeff. Second round, Angle beats Eddie. Benoit beats Regal. Benoit beats Angle. Yeah, I like that, but just get Big Show in there. I just want to see that one thing.
Oh, come on.
No, really. I'm trying to accomplish something here.
Okay, hey, how about this then?
No, these are good matches, though. I mean, these are really good. I tell you what, I'm going to save this one.
Wait. How about they just do that tournament? But in order to qualify to get into the tournament, Benoit taps out the Big Show on Raw in 4 minutes. How about that?
Not bad. Not a bad idea.
That way we don't have to see a pay-per-view with the Big Show in there screwing the whole thing up.
How much can he screw up if you keep it 4 minutes?
Well, when you could have had a better match with Benoit, he could screw it up a lot.
Okay, this is, in order to get the King of the Ring tournament over, Undertaker and Kane have to be in the tournament. Uh-oh. Here it goes. No. Or else it will be a mid-card tournament. Yeah, we got to think of something. We got to think of something for Undertaker and Kane.
Why don't you just beat those guys in the, what's after quarterfinals? Half finals?
There's quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals.
What's one before quarterfinals? We'll just say qualifying.
The first round.
Just beat some heavyweights in the qualifying, so these guys aren't, typecast as mid-carders. Then all these guys that beat the heavyweights are doing a great tournament. You don't have to have a heavyweight in the actual tournament screwing it up. An Undertaker or a Kane. Like they would lose anyway.
Okay.
They're not going to lose clean, so you'd have a DQ or a count-out, and there you go. You just ruin your tournament.
Okay, this is from Francis Wood, who goes, the Danny Davis you guys are talking about, the heel referee from the 80s and 90s. No, it's not. That's Dan Briley is actually the name, but Danny Davis was his wrestling name. And there was a lot of confusion in the late 80s because there was the Danny Davis, who was the referee in the WWF, who later became a heel referee, and then heel wrestler. And there was the Danny Davis, who worked mainly in Tennessee and Calgary, who was like this little guy. I mean, really little guy who was like a hell of a worker. And so we're talking about the hell of the worker, Danny Davis. Is Tori still with the WWF? Yes, she is. She was doing the Tough Enough thing, so I don't know how they're going to reintroduce her. How much is the WWF tape library worth? And I could not put a monetary value on that, but theoretically,
$10 million
of dollars.
just to the Death Valley Driver guys alone.
Yeah, really. Let's see.
Well, maybe not. There was a lot of really horrible stuff in the 80s in the WWF.
Yeah, it's from Sean, who goes, I know the Austin heel turn isn't making any money, but he is awesome at being a heel. Yeah, he is. I'm totally entertained by Steve Austin as a babyface and as a heel. In fact, Monday night, I mean, just so many different things between watching that match over and over again and watching that segment with The Undertaker. I don't want to hear anyone knock Steve Austin for his effort, because with all the millions of dollars that guy has made, he could easily have been like all those guys in WCW who just phoned it in and made huge money just off their name. And to work as hard as he does, he deserves a lot of credit. Mm-hmm. Let's go to Brian in Colorado. Brian, what's going on?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hey, did they ever find out how complete the tear on Triple H's quad was?
I think it was a complete tear.
Ouch.
Yeah, he's having surgery, is it tomorrow? I think he's having surgery tomorrow. And he may have tendon damage, too. They won't know. I think what I was told is they won't know everything until they actually open it up tomorrow.
Right.
Because there's probably tendon damage as well. He got a major injury there.
Uh-huh. And, did they have any plans of, turning Triple H face after that sledgehammer shot?
I think there was a plan. Maybe not immediately, but...
Right.
No, there were actually people who were, there were many different plans that were being debated to do for Monday Raw, and one of them was to actually use the pay-per-view to springboard the turn and go with Austin and Triple H at King of the Ring. Okay. That was not Vince McMahon's idea, because I think Vince McMahon wanted to hold it off for a bigger show, but, it certainly was considered, and obviously they were already starting in that direction, judging from the interview last night that Austin did.
Yeah. Okay, that's really all. That's it.
Okay, let's go to Joe in West Virginia. Joe, what's going on?
Oh, not much. Great show, guys.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Tell me something. You had the dude on earlier, Sean. How come they don't use anybody from OVW like Leviathan or
they're not ready.
Ron Waterman?
Ron Waterman's not ready either. They'll hopefully they'll be. Ron Waterman's making good improvement, but you don't. Well, you got to. It takes a real long time to be a good enough wrestler to be on Raw and not look bad. And it serves nobody any purpose to put them on TV before they're ready. And Leviathan is a long way from ready, and Ron Waterman is a long way from ready. In fact, probably the first one of those guys who will be ready is Shelton Benjamin. And even him, athletically, he's probably better than anyone in the WWF or as good as anyone. But, psychology-wise, he just doesn't have the ring time. And I know guys in WWF who've watched him on those dark matches that go, Shelton Benjamin's ready because they see him in like a 5-minute TV match and he does all those flips and everything. But he's not ready either. So that's why.
Just look at K-Quick. I never saw him when he was working Memphis, but I'm sure he looked awesome there. But he came to the WWF and he just looks, totally green and not ready.
Yeah.
Like some of those old 3-hour Nitro matches.
No, it was worse when they had 2-hour shows, that? Because when they had 3 hours is when they still had talent.
Well, here's a hypothetical for the King of the Ring. Get Shane McMahon or Linda to do like their executive privilege thing or something and put in a WCW guy.
That's not a bad idea to put one WCW guy in there.
Don't
have him win it, but have him make, at least advance.
God, he's got to look good.
Go really far, though.
He's got to look good, though. He's got to look.
It has to be like Lance Storm going to the finals and then losing.
Yeah, I mean, boy, that's tough. I could see it because it's something intriguing and it's something new, but I almost think that if he's in there, he has to win it.
That'd be too soon, wouldn't it?
Well, you got to do something. They're going to main event the following pay-per-view, and you got to jumpstart this. If people think that Benoit and Jericho needed a boost, WCW needs a boost 10 times more than them. This is, and it's a lot more of a big money issue. The pressure on WWF to make WCW success coming off the XFL is so huge. So, they can't do anything half-assed. That's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. One other thing, you remember back in the old days, Hulk, the actor he was, Oscar-winning performance, do you remember No Holds Barred?
Unfortunately, yes.
In Zeus, you remember when they tried the little crossover whenever they brought Zeus in?
The Zeus match. The two Zeus matches, sure.
Why not bring in Michael Clark Duncan with The Rock to take on Stone Cold and somebody? And Vince, maybe later
He's big. He's big.
Hey, when that movie comes out, if that thing's a hit,
he's
not a small guy.
Yeah, no, he's bigger than almost all the wrestlers. He's a big wrestling mark, too. I lost all respect for Michael Clark Duncan. You know when that is, Brian, don't you?
Yes,
remember on that one TV taping from L.A. when he's out there and he's doing that stuff like Mark in the front row? It's like I'm thinking you are a great actor and you are so far above all of us, as a celebrity, but you are like more of a Mark than like the worst person who calls my show.
Maybe he was just out there acting.
He's 6'5" and 320 pounds, and he needs to be noticed.
Yes.
Hey, can I ask another question?
Sure.
Whatever happened to Ultimo Dragon?
Ultimo Dragon had an elbow operation, and the doctor, in doing the operation, cut through the nerve, and he lost all feeling in his arm and never wrestled again.
So
he's training wrestlers in Mexico, and he's one. We talk about Cornette being a trainer. I think Dragon may be the best trainer there is, because I don't think anyone is. Does anyone come to your mind, Brian? I think Dragon's track record's the best of anyone.
Probably is.
He was.
I mean, he's trained so many awesome wrestlers.
The number and quality of guys. I mean, Michaels did a hell of a job with some of his guys.
Oh, come on, but none of. I mean, Michaels did do a good job, but not to the level of Ultimate Dragon. No, I mean, like look at his guys now. I mean, Shima and Sua and Dragon Kid. I mean, God, and he's got a whole new crew in Mexico that are just starting out, and I hear some of them are really good.
Yep.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Thank
Another
you very
wasted, underutilized talent.
Ultimo Dragon?
Yeah.
When he was in WCW?
I mean, they did something with him, but
they didn't really know what to do with him.
They didn't know.
That guy, I think he was just about my favorite wrestler, because to me, of the guys that they had, he had everything. I mean, he had the wrestling, he had the flying, he had the kicks. You know what I mean? I mean, he did the selling. I mean, I think that guy was what an unbelievable talent he was. Let's see. So after months of anticipating Tajiri's debut, it looks like they're going to stick him in the role of Regal's manservant. What is it with the WWF and the need to turn virtually every ethnic wrestler into either a racial stereotype or something demeaning? It almost makes you wonder what they might do to Goldberg to play up as being Jewish. They will not do that with Goldberg.
Hey, you know what? At least he is being a lackey to Steve Regal right now, and not just being stuck in Kaientai and put on heat. Or jacked.
Let's see.
At least he's being a lackey for a somewhat top-level guy, and it may go somewhere.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. Whatever happened to the following wrestling personalities? Ken Patera. Ken Patera is running a gym in Minnesota, I think. I'm not sure if he's still running the gym, but I know he still promotes independent wrestling and still occasionally wrestles, even though Ken is, God, he'd be 58 years old. He's not young. Bill Eadie.
We should have asked John about some of the gyms in Kentucky.
I'm sure they're good.
I heard
Those guys aren't getting smaller.
Rip has a gym. Rip Rogers has a gym, and he lives in such a small town that
Seymour,
all of
Indiana?
the members have their own key.
I used to go to gyms like that. Those
you
are
just
the
go
best
in
gyms
whenever you want and work out and lock up when you're done.
Those are the best gyms to train at.
Yeah.
When I lived in Oakland, I went to this gym in Alameda that had like one of the world's strongest man guys who wanted to be a wrestler who had no mobility, so he never made it. But he's like a guy who would come into the gym and literally, I would see him once a week squatting 800 to 900 pounds. He's like 5'10", 330 type of guy, or probably 350. But all of the regular lifters had keys and everything. And I mean, I don't think I was ever in better shape without trying. I mean, I was in better shape when I tried harder in other places, but the atmosphere there, in that gym where everybody's just it was awesome. It's much better than going to a Gold's. I mean, where the equipment's a million times better, but the atmosphere isn't as good. Anyway, Bill Eadie, what's up with Bill Eadie?
That's a good question.
I haven't heard his name lately.
Oh, remember everyone thought he was that guy that came down from the rafters in WWE?
Yeah.
That was him.
Yeah. Billy Jack Haynes. He's in Oregon. I don't know what happened to him. He's running from the guys trying to catch him for gambling debts. Barry Windham works for Dusty Rhodes. Jack Reynolds. I think Jack Reynolds is still. I'm not sure if he's still alive or not. He was Cleveland TV voice. Angelo Mosca, I know, is still alive. And Ken Resnick. I think Ken Resnick's doing something with the government or something. I don't know what's the story with Resnick. There's something. I trained before we'll go to a break right after this. But I trained with a woman. This just reminded me in that period that I'm talking about, who was like a high level bodybuilding competitor who had a physique that was almost exactly like China's when China first came in. And she didn't believe me. This woman trained, to look like that. You can just imagine how hard they trained, and she did everything else too. And actually, she trained harder than any guy I ever trained with. Now that I think about it, but the thing about that is that with the voice and everything like that. I guess it's just like that whole feeling of don't insult me with about you don't do this. You know what I mean? Because it's think about. When a woman isn't going to...
Lifting weights does not lower your voice and cause hair to grow on you if you're a female.
No, and have this kind of this woman looked like, who could I compare her to? Shelton Benjamin, except smaller. It was like, what can I say?
Some people are just so naive about this kind of thing. I mean, just use a little bit of common sense. If you have a friend and they've always been a certain size, and then all of a sudden they just blow up, their jaw changes, their forehead juts out, and they sprout hair.
When the face starts changing, that's a pretty good sign.
Yeah, they didn't just get on creatine. Come on now. I mean, look at these guys, and what was that thing we were talking about the other day? The list. We found this list on the internet of guys that were and were not on steroids. It was so funny because just be serious. Come on. Yeah. Some of the people on this list that we just won't mention right here, but it's just ridiculous.
This is from Lou Pickney, and he goes, "You were mentioned this morning on the Bubba the Love Sponge show. Hulk Hogan called in, and they referenced when you testified at a trial. Hogan said you knew what swerves were, and he and Bubba started laughing about that. He put down that you were brought in as a wrestling expert witness. You know what's funny about this? I'm reading this, right? I have never testified in a trial about wrestling in my entire life. They're talking about bringing me in as some expert I've been asked, and in some cases, but thankfully, I mean, for whatever reason, I mean, I never did. So anyway, he goes, I'm not sure what the buildup was for this, but it seemed like Hulk Hogan called in just to badmouth you, although he pretended he didn't know your name. He just said the dirt sheet guy, and Bubba was the one who said Dave Meltzer.
Dan Mezger?
Yeah. And he goes, also, Hogan claimed that he met you only once before the trial. Which trial's that? I don't even know what trial would I have testified in. And I was hugging Ric Flair by a pool in San Diego. He's tried to make it make sense about the time he burned the Observer in WCW. That is to say, when it was done, it made no sense. I've never seen Ric Flair in San Diego in my life. So, and in fact, I don't know that I've ever seen Ric Flair at a pool in my life. Although that one, I don't remember ever doing that, but certainly it was never in San Diego. We've got another King of the Ring. Let's check this one out. Eddie Guerrero beats Matt Hardy. Kurt Angle beats Jeff Hardy. William Regal beats Raven. Benoit beats Big Show. His round two, Angle over Eddie. Benoit over Regal. Benoit over Angle. Everyone's got the same pretty much idea of, I think the Benoit beating Regal in the semifinal and Angle in the final is a very popular pick.
You know what makes me happy is last year things were hot and the WWF was not listening to fans. This year things are not so hot and they are listening to fans, so maybe it will be a Benoit Regal semi and a Benoit Angle final.
Okay, let's see. Here's
or
another
even the other way around.
Okay, then we got Angle beats Eddie. Rhino beats Big Show. Nah, I don't want Rhino. You know, if Big Show's in there, we don't. No. Benoit beats Christian. Edge beats Test. Then Angle beats Rhino. Benoit beats Edge. Benoit beats Angle. Everyone's got Benoit winning. Let's see. Brian. Let me see what else we got here. This, with everyone saying the past Monday night's Raw main event is one of the best matches in the history of Raw, what do you think was the best match in the history of Raw? The best match ever on Raw. That's a really good question. You know what? That was pretty damn close.
That was close.
I used to think there was a match with Shawn Michaels and Martin Jannetty in the early days of Raw. That's always the one that I would remember. And then there's that the Chris Jericho Hunter match. Of course, there were so many in the last year, you know, with Angle and all those guys.
That 10-man tag they had when the Radicals first came up.
Right. That was excellent too. I thought that the Jericho Hunter match where Jericho won the title for like 15 minutes, I thought that was probably the best Raw match ever. And this one I would probably rank ahead of it because it counted. Because the other one, I think the Edge came off when it's all over and it's kind of like, well, this was just a fraud. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in hindsight.
Yeah, this is from, I believe it's from Richard Sullivan, who says, Brian is right. Put Benoit over Big Show on Raw. More people will see it. Then they can do the angle where Vince sends Big Show to destroy him. And then when Benoit takes him apart, it'll get him over 10 times more effectively. All right. I think it is better to put it on TV, you know, because it'll get that crossface over. Let's see. This is from Rob Boyle, who goes, does Triple H have the patience to wait for the injury to heal before coming back to TV? He doesn't, unfortunately.
No, he doesn't.
Yes. What do promoters in places like Japan and Mexico think of Vince McMahon?
Judging from the angles that they do, they think that he's the greatest promoter ever.
They think he's God. The reason I ask is that if wrestling ever goes through a huge boom and Vince considers a wrestling channel, would any international stuff be on? No, the thing is, it's not what they think of him, it's what he thinks of them, which is not much. I'm reading an RF video preview of the Road Warriors shoot interview, and it says that they get really upset when the subject of Vince McMahon comes up. I was wondering why. Well, do you remember how they were treated when they were there the last time? It's probably your answer. They do not like him.
Hawk committed suicide off the Titantron in his final appearance in that company.
And Animal had to do jobs, and goddamn, he went years without ever being. Animal was a prelim guy, and Animal in his mind is still a main eventer today. Let's go to Nick in Staten Island. Nick, what's going on?
Hi, how you doing?
Doing really good.
I have two brief questions. One, if you lift weights when you're really young, like I'm 14, and I just want to know if I'm gonna lift weights, is it gonna stunt my growth? And two, what promotions do you work for, Brian?
For the first question, I do not believe personally that it will stunt your growth, but I'm sure you'll find a lot of people that will say that it will.
I wouldn't do overhead presses or squats, but I don't think that doing something like pull downs, I can't see where that would do it. You know what I mean? I think choose your exercises wisely.
Yeah, because I want to train eventually. Probably in about a year or two, I'm going to probably train, and I just want to get in really good shape.
I think if you do like bench presses, pull downs. I mean, if you do pretty much,
pull-ups.
I wouldn't do pull-ups.
Get a bar and put a bar in like your doorway and do chin-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incline bench presses, press downs. So if you do an exercise like press downs and curls, it's not going to stunt your growth. The only thing I could think of possibly would be squatting heavy and overhead pressing heavy, and you don't really need to do that till you're older anyway.
But I don't care about mass really. No, it doesn't bother me. Okay. And Brian, what promotions do you work for?
Up here in the Northwest, it's the PWF in Tacoma and ICW up in British Columbia and some Portland stuff too.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's go to Chad in New Hampshire. Chad's gone? Okay, well, let's go. Are there any talks about DDP and Scott Steiner joining WWF, or are they going to stay with WCW? It's all the same thing. Name me one star that's ever
last night I almost went insane and did a frequently asked questions for the website. But after I read the response to a couple of them, I calmed down. But it may be coming.
Uh-oh. Name me one star that ever came from OVW except for Kurt Angle. Actually, you did a good job there because Kurt Angle didn't come from OVW. OVW is a waste of money. What are the guys who come from there? Bull and Albert. Actually, Albert never came from there. Bull Buchanan sort of did, although he had wrestled with WWF before he ever went to Ohio Valley. Ohio Valley's really new. I mean, it's probably too soon for any big stars to have come from there. But if you watch the tapes and you see the guys and watch how much they improve, I think that
there will be some very big names in the future.
3 years from
look back and say they came from Ohio Valley.
Yeah, we will say that we saw them before. A lot of the guys on this show, like John Cena and Brock Lesnar, there will come a day when people will go, you know what? I heard those guys before they were ever stars. But it's the same thing with the Dory. Let's look back a couple of years ago. Those Dory Funk Jr. camps. Even though some of those guys, a lot of those guys had worked indies, Dory gave them the finishing touches, and we have Edge, Christian, Crash Holly, the Hardy Boys, Albert, Kurt Angle, basically half the roster. If we actually Val Venus, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we went and looked back at all the guys that came through Dory Funk Jr.'s training. So I would say that was money very well spent in hindsight. Let's see. If Booker T shows up at Raw, would he bring the WCW title? That would be a decision that they would have to make. I would not be surprised that they would do that. I think there's a good shot. When will WCW have their own TV tapings? Nobody knows. Let's see. This is in Australia. They see Raw 8 hours after it airs in the United States. So they say Raw. Okay, so it's in Australia. It's on an 8-hour tape delay, which is actually a pretty quick turnaround. Let's see. Sting sucks. I'm tired of people raving about him like he's the best wrestler. Since we never have done that.
But we had people talking about it yesterday, like he could turn a thing around.
Well, we'll never know because it'll never happen. Where do you know I can get tapes?
He will know. He would not have.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. But we'll never get a chance to know for sure because it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
What is going on with Eric Bischoff and Matt Ratz? Are they going to do TV? Do you think it will be a new Nitro project for Eric? He would love it to be. He's not having good luck getting television, nor is anyone else. Okay, this is a good one. It's from Chris, who obviously didn't listen to the show yesterday, but thought he did. I completely disagree with you about the fact that tables, ladders, and chairs matches are always boring, are becoming boring. We never said boring. We said overdone. There's a big difference. You can only do a gimmick so many times before it loses its drawing appeal, and they brought the ladders out far too many times this year. Let's see. Here's some.
But thanks for not listening.
Let's see. I thought the main event was good on Raw, but they will never let Benoit or Jericho ever win the world title. Never, ever. Well,
I believe Jericho
you may be right.
did.
No, the singles title. They may be right. This goes, I want to make a comment on all the celebrities the WF signed for one match. You were talking about Mike Tyson, but I thought having Lawrence Taylor beat Bam Bam Bigelow at WrestleMania was worse because Bam Bam was never one of my favorite wrestlers, but paying a football player all kinds of money to wrestle one time and beating a pro wrestler was ridiculous. No, I mean, Taylor had to win that match. I mean, first of all, he wouldn't have done it if he was going to lose. And they felt that they needed it for celebrity status. I mean, I don't know that it was a success financially because I think the WWF and a lot of people, because New York is the center of the world to a lot of people that live in New York, that Lawrence Taylor was such a superstar in New York that they didn't realize that his mainstream popularity was not that big outside of New York. So while I'm sure he did huge numbers in the Northeast for being there, I think nationwide it didn't carry over as well because I remember the buy rate of that was a little bit disappointing. But I mean, for a guy who never wrestled, he had to win. You don't bring in a guy. Everyone was paying to see him not lose. So, I know that the idea is if it was real, if a guy from another sport came into your sport and you're a star at your sport, you should beat him. But it's pro wrestling and it's entertainment, and they actually there's actually a long history of bringing in football players to beat good workers. And theoretically, the idea, Bigelow should have gotten a big rub. That was the most, what was the word I'm looking for? That was the most over that Bam Bam Bigelow ever was, and the best angle I think that he probably ever did in his entire career was the Taylor angle. The only problem was that he got double-crossed on the follow-up, because the whole deal was that the plan was that Bigelow would turn babyface afterwards and, then get a big push, and then it would lead to a SummerSlam match where Taylor and Bigelow would form a tag team. And that Bigelow would end up being this big celebrity because you get this big tattooed 400-pound freak. The sports writers would all go wild. You know what I mean? Like with Lawrence Taylor. But it ended up where Kevin Nash was in that company with Shawn Michaels and those guys, and they wielded a lot of power. And when Bam Bam Bigelow made the turn, he suddenly started doing lots of jobs. And, when a babyface makes a turn and starts doing lots of jobs, they often don't get over. And that's
incredible.
What yes. Yes. Let's see. This is someone who says, an idea for a crossover talent is Rasheed Wallace from the Portland Trailblazers. He's portrayed by the media as a loose cannon because he's kicked out of so many games. He'd be a good fit. I'm not convinced he's a big enough star on a national level. He's just not a big enough star.
Let me tell you how this sports thing here works. I don't watch absolutely any sports. So there are certain sports heroes that I have heard of, like Shaquille O'Neal. And if I have not heard of them, I guarantee they're not big enough stars.
That's exactly what you did. That's right. Or else they won't mean anything box office wise. Because there are guys. And I'll give you an example. Is Kevin Green? Kevin Green was a hell of a wrestler for a guy who wasn't a wrestler. But I don't know that Kevin Green really meant anything. As far as mainstream appeal, even though he was a very good football player, whereas Dennis Rodman or Mike Tyson, they meant a ton. Even if you don't watch those, I don't watch golf. I've heard of Tiger Woods. I've heard of Michael Jordan. I've heard of these guys. These are guys that might mean something. But, I'm not trying to sound egotistical here, but if I haven't heard of this person, they're probably not that big a star. Yes. This is from someone who says, I want your thoughts on Shima. I consider him the best cruiserweight since Chris Benoit in the early 90s. What do you think? I don't know. Who do you think's the best cruiserweight in the world right now?
In the whole world? Benoit?
Minoru Tanaka, maybe. I don't know. I think Minoru Tanaka's awfully good. Anyone? I don't know. Does anyone else pop into your head?
Are you counting Benoit and Eddie Guerrero?
I would count Eddie Guerrero, I think, because I think that he's probably, even as big as he is, still would be in that. I would not count Benoit anymore because he looks to be closing in on 230.
Even the last couple days, Eddie Guerrero's just looked incredible.
Yeah. Size-wise, yeah. Eddie Guerrero is.
I'm talking about in the ring.
Oh, I know. No, I know. I know you're talking about. I know. I know he's a great all-around performer. Anyway, you have not given an answer, and we are out of time, so you better give an answer in like a second.
Eddie Guerrero.
Okay, there's the answer. All right, Brian, thanks very much. And we are totally out of time. I want to thank everyone for joining in. And tomorrow we're going to be joined by Max Payne. So that should be quite an interesting afternoon. And we'll see you all at 5.